Marilyn Monroe's died, husband, son, house, cars and biography. Marilyn Monroe was an American actress and model. Known for playing comic blonde bombshell characters, she became one of the most popular sex symbols of the 1950s and early 1960s, as well as an emblem of the era's sexual revolution. Born, June 1, 1926, Los Angeles, California. Died, August 4, 1962, age 36 years, Brentwood, Los Angeles, California. Spouse, Arthur Miller, M. 1956–1961, Joe DiMaggio, M. 1954–1955, James Doherty, M. 1942–1946. Height, 5'5". Siblings, Bernice Baker Miracle, Robert Kermit Baker. Date of burial, August 8, 1962. Marilyn Monroe net worth $800,000. Life and career. 1926 to 1943, childhood and first marriage. Monroe was born Norma Jean Mortensen on June 1, 1926, at the Los Angeles General Hospital in Los Angeles, California. Her mother, Gladys Pearl Baker, née Monroe, 1902–1984, was born in Piedras Negras, Coahuila, Mexico, to a poor Midwestern family who migrated to California at the turn of the century. At age 15, Gladys had married John Newton Baker, an abusive man 9 years her senior. They had 2 children together, Robert, 1918–1933, and Bernice, 1919–2014. She successfully filed for divorce and sole custody of her 2 oldest in 1923, but Baker kidnapped the children soon after and moved with them to his native Kentucky. Monroe was not told that she had a sister until she was 12, and they met for the first time in 1944 when Monroe was 17 or 18. Following the divorce, Gladys worked as a film negative cutter at Consolidated Film Industries. Her second marriage occurred in 1924 when she married Martin Edward Mortensen, but they separated just months later and divorced in 1928. In 2022, DNA testing indicated that Monroe's father was Charles Stanley Gifford, 1898–1965, a co-worker of Gladys, with whom she had an affair in 1925, though until then, her father was thought to be Mortensen. Monroe also had 2 other half-siblings from Gifford's marriage with his first wife, a sister, Doris Elizabeth, 1920–1933, and a brother, Charles Stanley, 1922–2015. Monroe is an infant, wearing a white dress and sitting on a sheepskin rug. Although Gladys was mentally and financially unprepared for a child, Monroe's early childhood was stable and happy. Gladys placed her daughter with evangelical Christian foster parents Albert and Ida Bollender in the suburban town of Hawthorne. She also lived there for 6 months, until she was forced to move back to the city for employment. She then began visiting her daughter on weekends. In the summer of 1933, Gladys bought a small house in Hollywood with a loan from the Homeowners Loan Corporation and moved 7-year-old Monroe in with her. They shared the house with lodgers, actors George and Maud Atkinson and their daughter, Nellie. In January 1934, Gladys had a mental breakdown and was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. After several months in a rest home, she was committed to the Metropolitan State Hospital. She spent the rest of her life in and out of hospitals, and was rarely in contact with Monroe. Monroe became a ward of the state, and her mother's friend Grace Goddard took responsibility over her and her mother's affairs. Over the next 4 years, Monroe's living situation changed often. For the first 16 months, she continued living with the Atkinsons, and may have been sexually abused during this time. Always a shy girl, she now also developed a stutter and became withdrawn. In the summer of 1935, she briefly stayed with Grace and her husband Irwin Doc Goddard and 2 other families. In September 1935, Grace placed her in the Los Angeles Orphans' Home No. 2, Hollygrove. The orphanage was a model institution and was described in positive terms by her peers, but Monroe felt abandoned. Encouraged by the orphanage staff, who thought that Monroe would be happier living in a family, Grace became her legal guardian in 1936. But did not take her out of the orphanage until the summer of 1937. Monroe's second stay with the Goddards lasted only a few months because Doc molested her. She then lived for brief periods with her relatives and Grace's friends and relatives in Los Angeles and Compton. Monroe's childhood experiences first made her want to become an actress. I didn't like the world around me because it was kind of grim. When I heard that this was acting, I said that's what I want to be. Some of my foster families used to send me to the movies to get me out of the house, and there I'd sit all day and way into the night. Up in front, there with the screen so big, a little kid all alone, and I loved it.